Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt like the world demands everything from you, but forgets to ask how you're doing? Let me take you to a moment where you're surrounded by people, responsibilities, and expectations, yet feel invisible in your own life. Now pause. Ask yourself, when was the last time I thought about myself? Not in terms of goals, success, or duties, but just me. This isn't a talk about ego. Self-prioritization is not selfish. A statement that may seem controversial in a world that praises constant giving, tireless sacrifice, and endless availability. From a young age, most of us are conditioned to believe that thinking of ourselves first is a sign of arrogance, weakness, or even moral failure. We're taught that the right thing to do is to be there for others, to serve without question, to say yes, even when we're exhausted, and to keep smiling no matter how much we're falling apart inside. But what if that mindset is the very reason so many people are silently burning out, emotionally drained, and spiritually disconnected from who they truly are? Let me say this clearly. There is a powerful difference between selfishness and self-respect. To be selfish is to harm or disregard others for your own gain. But to prioritize yourself, your peace, your mental health, your happiness is not selfish. It is a form of survival. In fact, it's the foundation of every healthy relationship, every dream pursued, every act of meaningful kindness. You cannot give to the world what you do not first give to yourself. Think about it. If your energy is constantly depleted, if you're overwhelmed with guilt every time you say no, if you're always trying to meet everyone else's needs at the cost of your own, how long can you last? How long before resentment builds up quietly in the background? How long before your smile becomes forced, your passion turns into pressure, your care becomes a burden? The answer is not long. You don't have to wait until you're broken to realize the importance of self-prioritization. You deserve rest before you're tired. You deserve love without conditions. You deserve to say this is too much without apology. This world is loud with expectations. It will pull you in 100 directions, tell you what you should be, who you should help, and how you should live. But no voice is more important than the one inside you, the one that whispers, I need a moment, I need space, I need to come home to myself. The truth is, when you begin to prioritize yourself, the quality of everything else in your life improves. Your relationships deepen because they are no longer rooted in guilt or obligation, but in authenticity. Your work becomes more meaningful because it isn't draining your soul to create it. Your presence becomes more powerful because it's coming from a place of wholeness, not exhaustion. Prioritizing yourself means learning to set boundaries without guilt. It means choosing stillness when the world demands movement. It means being okay with disappointing others if it means being honest with yourself. And that is not easy, especially if you've spent your life pleasing, avoiding conflict, or tying your worth to how useful you are to others. But the difficult road of self-honor is far better than the easy path of self-abandonment. You are not a machine. You are a human being with emotional needs, physical limits, and a soul that longs for peace. And until you learn to care for yourself the way you care for others, you will always feel like something is missing, even if you're surrounded by people, success, and smiles. Imagine how the world would change if we normalized self-prioritization. If we taught children that saying, I need time for me, is healthy. If we reminded one another that burnout isn't a badge of honor. If we stopped applauding people for destroying themselves to keep everything else together. Imagine a culture where rest isn't seen as laziness, but as a necessary form of strength. It starts with you, with one small act of courage, saying no without explanation, taking a day off without guilt, walking away from what no longer feels right, or simply sitting with your own heart and listening to what it needs. You matter not for what you do for others, not for how productive you are, but because you exist, and that alone is reason enough to put yourself first. Self-prioritization is not a betrayal of your values. It's a declaration of your worth. You cannot be everything to everyone and still have anything left for yourself. And you were never meant to live that way. So remember this truth. Thinking about yourself deeply, consistently, unapologetically is not selfish. It is an act of radical self-love, and from that love, everything else can begin. In a world obsessed with appearance, performance, and validation, it's far too easy to lose sight of one simple but profound truth. Your worth is not defined by others. Yet, from the moment we are born, we are measured. Our grades are compared, our talents ranked, our choices questioned. We are taught, often indirectly, that to be enough, we must constantly earn approval from parents, teachers, friends, partners, society. Slowly, we begin to internalize the idea that who we are is only as valuable as the praise we receive, the likes we collect, or the expectations we meet. But here is the truth that often gets buried beneath all that noise. Your worth is not something to be given. It is not a trophy to be won, or a label to be earned. It is not shaped by your failures or inflated by your achievements. It is not tied to the role you play in someone else's life. Your worth is inherent. It exists simply because you exist, and no one, not even the loudest critic or the closest companion, has the authority to decide your value. We spend so much time trying to be seen, trying to be chosen, trying to be accepted, that we forget how powerful it is to accept ourselves first. Think about how many decisions you've made because you were afraid of being judged, or rejected, or misunderstood. How many times have you stayed silent to keep the peace? How often have you betrayed your own needs to fit in or to avoid disappointing someone else? And yet, even after all the effort to please others, the sense of emptiness lingers. Why? Because external validation can never replace internal self-worth. It's a temporary fix for a deeper wound. It's not that other people's opinions don't matter at all, but they should never matter more than your own truth. When someone criticizes you, it does not mean you are broken. When someone leaves, it does not mean you are unlovable. When someone overlooks you, it does not mean you are invisible. Often, the way people treat you is a reflection of them, not you. Their insecurities, their limitations, their inability to see your light, none of it changes your essence. The danger of depending on others to define your worth is that their perception can change at any moment. One day you're praised, the next day you're forgotten. One day you're admired, the next day you're judged. If your value rises and falls based on other people's moods or opinions, you will forever be on unstable ground. Real confidence comes from knowing that even when the world turns its back, you still stand tall, not because of what they see, but because of what you know. This self-knowledge is powerful. When you begin to see your own value, you stop chasing people who don't respect it. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces you've outgrown. You begin to choose differently, not from fear, but from self-respect. You surround yourself with people who see your worth, not just when you succeed, but when you're at your most vulnerable. You create boundaries not to shut people out, but to protect the sacred space of your own identity. And perhaps the most beautiful part, when you own your worth, you inspire others to do the same. You become a mirror that reflects permission to be flawed and still deserving, to be evolving and still enough. Your presence becomes an invitation for others to step into their own light, because you've chosen not to dim yours. So the next time you doubt yourself, the next time someone's words make you question your value, pause and remind yourself. You were never meant to be defined by what's outside of you, not by your job, your relationships, your struggles, or your successes. You are whole, you are worthy, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. You don't need to be more, do more, or prove more to be enough. You already are. And when you finally believe that, no one will ever be able to take it away from you. Your worth is not in their hands, it's been within you all along. Pain is something we all try to avoid. It's uncomfortable, unpredictable, and often feels unfair. Whether it comes from heartbreak, loss, betrayal, failure, or even the quiet loneliness of feeling unseen, Pain has a way of shaking us to our core. We're taught to suppress it, to distract ourselves, to move on as quickly as possible. But what if we looked at pain differently? What if, instead of treating it as an enemy, we began to recognize it as one of our greatest sources of power? There is something incredibly transformative about pain. It strips away the surface-level noise. It humbles us. It forces us to stop pretending, to confront our truth, to meet the rawest parts of ourselves. When everything is falling apart, we are given the rare opportunity to ask, what truly matters? Who am I when I'm no longer performing, no longer pleasing, no longer pretending? That is when you begin to discover not just your strength, but your soul. Pain, when embraced rather than avoided, becomes a teacher. It shows us what needs to be healed, what we've been running from, and what parts of ourselves are waiting to be acknowledged. It makes us more human, more real, more alive, and as much as it hurts, pain often leads us to purpose. Some of the most beautiful stories ever told were born from deep wounds. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet carry scars not as symbols of defeat, but as proof that they survived. When you allow pain to guide you instead of define you, you begin to realize its power. You begin to understand that every heartbreak taught you how deeply you can love. Every failure showed you how resilient you really are. Every loss made you cherish what remains. Even silence, even loneliness, even grief, these emotions, as heavy as they are, carve out space in you for wisdom, compassion, and clarity. We live in a world that celebrates strength, but often misunderstands what strength really is. Strength isn't pretending you're okay. Strength is standing in your brokenness and saying, I'm still here. Strength isn't having all the answers. It's daring to ask the hard questions, even when the answers hurt. And real courage, it's found not in moments of comfort, but in the times when everything inside you wants to give up and yet you keep going. Pain doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're alive. It means you care. And most of all, it means you're evolving. Growth rarely happens in comfort. It happens in the struggle, in the quiet moments when you have no choice but to face yourself. In those moments, you are being shaped. Not into someone who is bitter, but someone who is brave. Not someone who is broken, but someone who is becoming. You are allowed to feel it all. The tears, the confusion, the anger, the numbness. These emotions are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are signs that you are healing. That something inside of you is fighting to rise again. The process may not look graceful. Healing rarely does. But every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. And eventually, when the dust begins to settle, you'll look back and realize that your pain was not the end of you. It was the beginning, the moment you stopped living to survive and started living to grow. The moment you stopped seeking approval and started seeking truth. The moment you stopped hiding your wounds and started wearing them like armor. You are stronger than you know, not in spite of your pain, but because of it. Every challenge you faced has equipped you with insight, depth, and empathy. You may not have chosen the pain, but you do get to choose what it becomes. Will it harden you or heal you? Will it hold you back or move you forward? The power is already within you, in your resilience, in your ability to get up one more time, in your refusal to let your story end at the chapter of pain. Remember, the cracks in you are not weaknesses, they are openings. Openings where the light gets in, openings where transformation begins. So honor your pain, let it speak, let it teach, let it grow you. Because when you rise, and you will rise, you'll carry a power that only those who have walked through the fire can ever understand. There is a moment in everyone's life when they begin to wonder, am I really living for myself, or just following someone else's script? It's a quiet moment, often buried beneath responsibilities, expectations, and routines, but it comes. And when it does, it asks a powerful question. Whose rules am I living by? From the moment we're born, the world starts placing labels on us. We are told what's right, what's wrong, what success should look like, what a good life means. We're taught to follow the path most people walk: go to school, get a job, settle down, do what's safe, fit in, stay comfortable. But nowhere in this blueprint does it stop to ask, what do you want? What makes your heart come alive? What do you believe in, even if it goes against the grain? Your life was never meant to be a copy of someone else's. You weren't born to meet expectations you never agreed to. You weren't made to live on autopilot, silently conforming to rules that make you feel smaller, not stronger. The truth is simple. This is your life. And you get to choose what it looks like. Living by your own rules isn't about rebellion for the sake of it. It's about reclaiming ownership of your choices. It's about recognizing that you don't need permission to live authentically. The world will always have something to say about how you look, what you believe, who you love, how you succeed. But if you spend your entire life trying to please others, you'll end up losing yourself in the process. Your power lies in knowing who you are and having the courage to honor that truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's unpopular. That might mean taking a risk instead of staying safe. It might mean walking away from people who no longer align with your values. It might mean saying yes to something the world tells you is too big for you, or saying no to a path that looks perfect on paper but feels hollow in your soul. You don't need to justify your dreams. You don't have to shrink to make others comfortable. You don't have to delay your joy because someone else thinks it's not the right time. You don't owe the world explanations for following your own inner compass. Your life is yours. Every choice you make is a brushstroke on the canvas of your story, and no one else gets to hold the brush. Yes, it takes courage to live this way. It takes strength to stand firm in your truth while others question it. But what's the alternative? A life spent chasing approval. A life where you wake up every morning feeling like a stranger to your own dreams. That's not living. That's just surviving. When you start living by your own rules, things begin to shift. You begin to breathe easier. You begin to feel more aligned. You start making choices that reflect your heart, not your fears. You begin to build a life that fits you, not a life you're constantly trying to squeeze into. There will be mistakes. There will be times you feel lost, but even in those moments, there is beauty because they are yours. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to rewrite the rules again and again as you grow. Life isn't a straight line. It's a journey of becoming, of discovering, of choosing again and again what feels true. Stop waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to be yourself. Stop waiting for a perfect plan. Stop waiting for everything to make sense. Start where you are. Trust your instincts. Build your own definition of success. Redefine what happiness means for you. Create a life that doesn't just look good, create one that feels good. In the end, you will not be remembered for how well you followed the rules. You'll be remembered for how bravely you broke them to stay true to who you are. So take back your power. Set your own standards. Make your own choices, and remember, this is your life, your journey, your voice, your truth. Live it fully, freely, fiercely on your terms. Healing is not something that happens to us. It's something that starts within us. We often think of healing as a process that depends on time or on someone else's apology, validation, or understanding. We wait. We hope someone will come along and fix what's broken, make sense of our pain, or lift the weight we've been carrying. But healing doesn't work that way. Healing begins with you the moment you decide you're ready to take responsibility for your peace, your heart, your future. It's not about forgetting what hurt you. It's about choosing not to let that pain control your life anymore. It's about reaching a point where you can look at the wound and say, yes, this happened. Yes, it changed me, but it will not define me. Healing doesn't mean pretending the pain never existed. It means learning to carry it with wisdom, not with bitterness. You cannot wait for someone to make it right before you begin to move forward. Some people may never understand the pain they cause. Some situations may never be fair. Some questions may never be answered. If your healing depends on things outside of your control, you will stay stuck. But when you realize that you can choose to begin again, even with the scars, even with the sadness, that's when real freedom begins. Healing is deeply personal. It's not a straight path. Some days you'll feel strong, ready to let go, ready to rise. Other days you'll feel heavy, tired, as if the weight of it all just returned without warning. That's okay. Healing is not about perfection, it's about commitment. The commitment to show up for yourself again and again, even on the days when you feel like falling apart. You deserve your own care, your own forgiveness, your own patience. Often we look outside of ourselves for comfort, distractions, relationships, achievements, hoping they'll make the pain disappear. But true healing requires us to slow down, to sit with ourselves, to feel what we've been avoiding. That's not weakness, that's strength. The courage to face your own heart, to ask what it needs, to give it the love it may have been denied. That's where the shift happens. Sometimes healing means setting boundaries, walking away from people, environments, or patterns that continue to harm you. That can feel selfish or harsh, especially if you're used to putting everyone else first. But protecting your peace is not selfish, it's essential. You cannot heal in the same environment that wounded you. You cannot grow if you keep returning to what breaks you. Choosing yourself is not abandoning others, it's returning to yourself. Healing is also about acceptance, not acceptance of injustice or abuse, but acceptance of the truth. The truth that you may never be the same person you were before the pain, and that's okay. That version of you did not have the wisdom you hold now. That version didn't know what you now know about strength, resilience, empathy, and self-respect. You are not broken. You are becoming, and every step you take toward your own healing is a declaration. I matter, my peace matters, my life matters. Letting go of pain doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means making peace with it so that it no longer steals joy from your present. It means telling yourself, I can carry the memory, but I won't carry the weight. It means giving yourself permission to feel joy again, to laugh again, to love again, not because everything is perfect, but because you're choosing to keep living. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment to start healing. There will never be a time when everything aligns, when all the answers arrive, when the pain just disappears. Healing starts now in this moment, with this breath, with this choice. The choice to be kind to yourself. The choice to believe that your story doesn't end with what hurt you. The choice to give yourself the same compassion you give to everyone else. Healing begins with you. Not because you're the one to blame, but because you're the one who has the power to set yourself free. You hold that power, you always have, and when you choose to take the first step, no matter how small, you begin to rewrite your story not as a victim of your past, but as the author of your future. In a world that constantly tells you to be more, do more, achieve more, it's easy to forget one of the most powerful truths you can ever hold onto. You are enough, not when you reach a certain goal, not when you become someone different, not when your life looks perfect from the outside. You are enough right now, in this moment, exactly as you are. But society has conditioned us to believe otherwise. From a young age, we are taught to measure our worth by achievements, by how much we produce, how we look, how others perceive us. We are told to strive constantly to fix, improve, outperform, outshine. And while growth is beautiful, it can also become a trap if we believe that who we are today is not worthy of love, peace, or belonging. That's where the lie begins, the lie that says we must earn our worth. The truth is, you don't need to become someone else to deserve happiness. You don't need to wear a mask to be accepted. You don't need to chase perfection to be loved. You were born with value. You were born whole. Life may have bruised you. Circumstances may have tried to dim your light. People may have made you question your worth, but none of that changes your essence. When you say to yourself, I am enough, it doesn't mean you are done growing. It means that even as you grow, you are still worthy. It means you can hold space for your imperfections and still honor your strength. It means you no longer tie your identity to how much you achieve or how well you meet others' expectations. You release the pressure to perform, and instead you choose to just be fully, freely, honestly. Many of us walk through life believing we need to prove ourselves. We try to please everyone, constantly apologize for who we are, or shrink ourselves to fit into roles that make others comfortable. We become experts at hiding our real selves not because we are weak, but because somewhere along the way we were taught that we weren't enough. But what if that belief was never true? What if the most radical act of healing is simply to return to yourself and realize you always were enough before the doubt, before the fear, before the world tried to convince you otherwise? You are enough even when you're unsure. Even when you're scared, even when you fail, your worth doesn't disappear because you're having a bad day or feeling lost. It's not dependent on constant strength or confidence. It's rooted in your being, in your heart, your humanity, your presence. You deserve to be loved not for what you do, but for who you are. When you embrace the truth that you are enough, something begins to shift. You begin to make choices based on self-worth, not self-doubt. You begin to set boundaries that protect your peace. You stop chasing validation from people who don't see your value and start surrounding yourself with those who do. You stop trying to fit into boxes that were never meant for you and start creating space where your full self can exist unapologetically. This doesn't mean life will always be easy. There will still be challenges, insecurities, moments of questioning. But in the midst of all of it, you will have an anchor, the unshakable belief that no matter what happens, you are enough. That belief becomes your foundation, your inner peace, your quiet strength. And from that place, everything changes. You begin to show up differently, not from a place of proving, but from a place of purpose. You begin to speak your truth, take up space, and pursue the life that aligns with your soul. Not because you need to earn your worth, but because you already know it, and that knowing sets you free. So let this be your reminder, not just today, but every day. You don't need to do more to matter. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy. You don't need anyone else to tell you who you are. You are enough completely, beautifully, powerfully enough, exactly as you are.